I'll just like to add that what is really further pushing the growth in the economy from a media standpoint is you have the demographics, then you have this mobile phones penetration across the country where you have mobile calls being made at 1 rupee, which is like 2 cents.
Half a cent.
Half a cent per, from
2 cent.
From anywhere to anywhere type of a situation. And the third thing which is really driving is there's huge plethora of Indian content available. Means India churns out like 1,000 movies each year. Each movie has 5 to 6 songs. So there's huge amount of content already available, be it the movies, be it television, be it print. On the print side, India has something like 65,000 publications, 55,000 newspapers. So the content is also available cheap, and hence the price point to the ultimate customer is very, very low, and that is driving huge volumes, and that is sort of leading to this huge growth which is happening.
In fact, I find it's a quite interesting paradigm. You might have heard about the book from C.K. Prahalat, The Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid, which stipulates that, in fact, say, consumers in a country like India not be treated as recipients of donations, but really as a market, as really consumers. And what it requires is that you price things at a much lower rate, but also repackage things. And what we're seeing in India is, for instance, a car from Tata that is coming out with €2,000 approximately. And the same, if you might share a bit your experience, what's happening in the mobile space in terms of mobile handset, in terms of connectivity rates, etc.
Yeah, so the rates are like coming down almost like 30% every 6 months. And you have a situation where almost 8 million new subscribers are being added to this 220 million number that Vishal spoke about. So there's a huge demand push, and there's a huge supply pull also happening out there.
I think another interesting trend is that Indian entertainment is now breaking barriers out of India. So how many people in this room have heard about or seen a Shah Rukh Khan movie, for example? Shah Rukh Khan, does the name ring a bell? Oh, fantastic. Quite a few hands. And yesterday when I was driving here, I asked my taxi driver, and he knew Shah Rukh Khan. And that was actually the biggest endorsement of the fact that Indian entertainment is now not only limited to India, but I think Indian entertainment companies have now figured out a way to take that outside of India. So it's not just Hollywood movies. And I think you would similarly not only be seeing products and internet services in India, but I think a lot of the Indian companies are now taking the leap to go global.
I'm staying at the Sofitel near the main station, and the first thing I see as I step out is a shop called Bollywood. So it's just amazing. I was pleasantly surprised.
Vishal, you have a company of 300 people. You have offices in Los Angeles, in Beijing, and in London.
London and Spain.
And what are they for? Are you selling your content also there? Is it Indian typical content?
No. So what we do is, we actually are a global mobile games company. So we go to Universal, for example, we have the rights for Bruce Lee, Jurassic Park, Godzilla. We acquire rights for these properties, global rights, produce games which are produced by our technicians in India, and then distribute it. So for example, in Germany, we work with O2, Vodafone, so they have revenue sharing agreements with us. The games are launched on their devices, so you would buy them for €5 and we get a revenue share. So essentially what we are able to do is compete with, on the world stage, directly with our products and services. So when you play a Bruce Lee or a Jurassic Park or now Office, and a lot of the games where we acquire licenses, it's actually produced and not on a services model. This is our own IP which we launch in the market.
I find it a quite exciting example for really this flat world phenomenon, because what's happening is that you're really competing on the global scale with companies that might be from the US or from Europe. What I like to know, and that's I think what India has been famous for in the last years, about offshore outsourcing of software. So, you know, this kind of labor arbitrage that is driving this development. Do you believe that there is a connex that also helps your business model of having developers of games at a cheaper rate than a company in the US to also kind of mitigate risk through this lower cost base?
So actually here is a very interesting trend. We first definitely used India as a base for low cost development. But today, we outsource some of our games to Germany, to US, to Eastern Europe. Because what is now happening is, as we are becoming more and more global, we are saying that it's not about, you know, trying to get everything done in India. If we see that there is a great team in Germany or in London who can make a good game. We go and get the game done from them. Of course, we get the main creative and the main things done from them while the rest of the stuff is made in India. So we are actually kind of building a hybrid model where it's not just about developing everything in India. India is where the mass replicated work is done. Our designing can be done pretty much anywhere in the world.
I'd like to revert briefly to the big picture a bit of India. So we have 1.1 billion people. We heard 50% of them are younger than 24. 70% of the population is still living in the rural area. From my knowledge, 140 million only are speaking English. Is that right? 140 million?
I think the number should be a little higher.
A little higher, all right. But still, what I want to say, there are still 14 official languages, so it's a very diverse and complex cosmos we have to deal with. And 40% of those above 15 years are illiterate. So, and having said that, India is a huge country where you have massive challenges when it comes to distribution. And when we spoke about, you mentioned a good example where India also from the digital standpoint is tackling the issue of distribution through digital means.
Yeah, I'd just like to touch upon what's happening on the cinema world. As I said, India churns out 1,000 movies. Each movie is running into 3 hours. So to distribute a movie across 500 theaters is a mammoth task because you have to cart 18 reels of film across from one theater to the other. What was that doing was it was preventing the producers of the movie to release those movies across India. So the movies will get released in the metro cities and then it will get released into smaller towns and then it will go into the villages. And by the time that will happen, there will be a huge amount of piracy which will completely erode and not enable the producer to monetize their content. What happened with over the last 1 year with digital cinema coming up is somebody came up with a solution to not go for the high-end digital cinema which is there in the US, which is the MPEG-2 format, but somebody adopted the MPEG-4 format and was able to download those movies, upload them onto a satellite and download onto theaters, which will store those movies onto their servers for a limited number of showings. So with that, what is happening now is across 1,000 cinemas that digital cinema has been rolled out, India has seen the fastest rollout of digital cinema. You can now have movies being released across those theaters on one go, and you could actually control how many showings those movies are being shown for and are able to collect the revenues for those movies in an effective, transparent manner. So it's completely revolutionizing distribution of cinemas in the country. It's cutting down piracy and is providing and also bringing down the cost of distribution because each movie to distribute was costing 60,000 rupees, which is something like $1,500 per print. And with this, the cost is now coming down to 10% of that. So it's a win-win for the producers, distributors, and the consumer. It's not the high end of digital cinema technology, but it's certainly a very effective, cost-effective solution for the mass market.
We've heard that one of the success formulas in India is high volume, low cost, bottom line value for money. If we speak about innovation, where does it come from in the digital area? We have, for instance, in Germany, quite an interesting mix of lots of startups who are doing something. Then you have like big publishers, for instance, Burda, our hosts, or Holzbrink, founding companies themselves, at the same time serving as a sort of exit channel for those startups. The IPO route is quite closed in Germany due to several issues, also through this crash of the new economy. So where does innovation really happen in India in this kind of context?
I think India is a land of innovations. I think all successful businesses in India, and I don't know how many of you know about the success of Bharti, which is the largest telecom company in India. The reason they came here and because of a great innovative concept where they said that even though we are a mobile operator, I don't want to run the network. I don't want to run the customer service. I don't want to run the billing. I'm going to manage the brand and the experience. And I think they really invented this model where in India, so the network was actually run by Nokia and Ericsson, and the billing was done by IBM and so on and so forth. And they figured out a way to get a bottom line of like 35%, in contrast to companies like Vodafone and T-Mobile and everybody else who said, I want to own the tower and everything. So here was a complete opposite innovative business model which was invented. And today I think they have, their model is now being rampantly copied all over the world. If you look at what just recently happened in India with the 1 lakh or the 2,000 euro car,